Good morning, Endeavor, and a special good morning to you today, Fergie.
Hey, good morning, Shannon. Good morning to the Orbit 3 team. I'd like to say good morning to my family, Laura, Eric, and Ian, and a special good morning and happy anniversary to my wife, Sandy.
That wake-up music was Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, performed by Frankie Valli, and it was performed for Ferguson on the occasion of his 23rd wedding anniversary. Endeavour crew members are waking up to a day that will see some off-duty time. They'll also continue the shuttle station equipment transfer, the transfer of equipment and supplies between the two spacecraft. They've reached a point in that activity where most of the transfer is from the station to the Leonardo, the multi-purpose logistics module, docked to the Earth-facing port of the Harmony node of the International Space Station. We're watching action by an ex officio member of the Endeavour crew in this live downlink. This individual is one of two spiders involved in a research project called Commercial Generic Bioprocessing Apparatus Science. The developers of the project are the Bioserve Space Technologies at the University of Colorado at Boulder, and it's an experiment sponsored by NASA. This experiment is part of a project that provides kindergarten through high school students opportunities to use microgravity of the International Space Station as part of the regular classroom to encourage learning and heighten interest in science, technology, engineering, and math. This part of the experiment involves watching an orb weaving spider spin a web, eat, and from all appearances remain healthy in space.
This is Mission Control Houston, watching live downlink television pictures from the Space Shuttle Endeavour's payload bay cameras as the shuttle station complex orbits over the eastern tip of South America as it stretches out into the Atlantic Ocean and now about to make an equatorial crossing on a northeasterly track. This track will continue to take us over some interesting coastline as it goes over the western coast of Africa and the Strait of Gibraltar, hoping we'll be able to bring you those television downlink views from the external cameras on the Shuttle Endeavour as the instrumentation and communications folks here in Mission Control go through some on-the-job training for operating the cameras. Commander Chris Ferguson aboard Endeavour gave the go-ahead for the team here on the ground to pan, tilt, and zoom the cameras while they're in their off-duty period. Ferguson, along with pilot Eric Bowe and mission specialist Steve Bowen, Don Pettit, Heidi Stephanician Piper, Shane Kimbrough, and Greg Shamatov, scheduled to get some time off today as That's a routine activity this far into the mission. While they're getting some time off, Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fink will be busy working with the urine processing assembly, doing a little troubleshooting and in-flight maintenance, changing out some grommets, hard mounting the urine processing assembly's distillation cylinder so that hopefully it will prevent some sloshing that is believed to be going on in there that's causing the system to trigger sensors that are shutting it off prematurely. Again, we have packed away the required samples from the urine processing assembly and are going to continue doing some troubleshooting work because the team on the ground and mission managers hope to bring down some additional samples as they have been completely processed and dispensed through the potable water dispenser on board the station. From inside the Columbus module of the International Outpost, as we take a look at Greg Shamatov as he's working with the what's known as the 3D in space investigation. It is called the mental representation of spatial cues during spaceflight. That's mental representation of spatial cues during spaceflight. And it's designed to identify accurate perception and localization of objects in the environment that are needed for reliable performance of motor skills tasks in microgravity, in other words, hand movements as associated with eye-hand coordination. Humans have mental representations of their environment that are based on sensory information and experience, and the hypothesis of this experiment by Gilles Clément of the Centre National de Recherche Scientifique in Toulouse, France, is that it could be altered by microgravity because of the absence of the gravitational reference and ambiguous perception cues. And so depth perception and the role of the perspective cues is going to be looked at in this experiment. It uses tests in a natural three-dimensional scenes presented in a virtual reality head-mounted display, which he's wearing right now, and also involves some handwriting and drawing tests that are used to distinguish the effects of thinking versus perceptual motor changes. We're watching downlink television pictures from inside the Destiny Laboratory module, where it appears that Mission Specialist Don Pettit of the shuttle crew is assisting Commander Mike Fink with this work on the water recovery system. Pettit, one of the primary installers of the water recovery racks inside the Destiny Laboratory module earlier in the mission. Sandy Magnus aboard the International Space Station, the newest member of the Expedition 18 crew. Now speaking with flight controllers in the Japanese Control Center in Tsukuba, Japan, about the activation of the external facility berthing mechanism. She's in the process of working with that mechanism, which we can see now here in the downlink television pictures. This is a location where an external materials research facility will be berthed later on in the assembly sequence of the International Space Station. It'll be used to put materials that are destined for potential use on future spacecraft or the space station to the test in the vacuum and extreme temperatures and atomic oxygen environment of the orbit of the space station. Even though it's a virtual vacuum outside the space station, there is still atomic oxygen particles that are in this area, and they have been shown to provide some degradation to different materials as they make contact with those materials in the vacuum of space. The Japanese Kibo module has unique capability of being able to put experiment samples from inside the space station outside on this exterior experiment facility, also known as the front porch of the Japanese module, and to have those experiments tended outside the space station using a Japanese robotic arm.
Endeavour ISS, this is ABC News. How do you hear me?
Hello, ABC News. This is the International Space Station along with the Endeavour Space Shuttle, and that sounds like Gina. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Mike. Let me start with you since you've got the mic. I know a lot of improvements have been made to the space station. I'm going to talk to Commander Ferguson about that, but first, what's on your fantasy wish list for space station improvements? A pizza maker, a shower? What have you got in mind?
Well, you said fantasy wishes. If I had a regular wish right now, we'd like to make sure we get our urine processing assembly up and running, but we think the ground came up with a great plan. And Don Pettit, myself, and Sandy, and Eric, and Steve all contributed today to get the plan in action. So right after we're finished with this interview, we'll see if it's going to work. Yeah, boy, I'd like to have a shower and some, well, not just now, but a shower, a physical shower. That would be nice. And then, yeah, some way to have a kitchen so we can cook our own foods instead of just eating the good foods that are provided for us.
For Commander Ferguson, this mission is being called the Extreme Makeover Mission. Just how new and improved will the space station be after Endeavour leaves?
Well, of course, as Mike had mentioned, Gina, there's the water processing facility. If you can see some of the surrounding environment, you can see it sort of looks like moving day here. There are bags just about everywhere. Of course, we're bringing up new calibrated tools. We're bringing up a refrigerator. We've brought up a new toilet. We've brought up, of course, the water processing plant. And we've generally, we're also transferring 1,000 pounds of water. And we're basically, in addition to upgrading the station, we're providing them the capability to sustain themselves until the next shuttle arrives sometime early next year.
And for Colonel Boat, your job is supposed to be glamorous, but it sounds like you're more of a construction and maintenance guy than anything else on this mission. Just what makes your job so glamorous, would you say?
Well, all jobs have both the glamour and the not so glamorous parts to do, so it's actually the thing that makes being up here so much fun is working with the team here on the station and the crew of Endeavour, and also with getting to work with the team on the ground and around the world that are making this place possible. So in the end, that's what really makes it glamorous, is all the teamwork that goes into making the station a reality.
And Sandy Magnus, you told us before you were launched you're bringing up a stuffed Tigger into space with you. How is Tigger enjoying the trip so far, and does he know he has spiders and butterflies for company up there?
Well, unfortunately, I've been so busy that Tigger is still waiting to be unpacked, but I have a special place for him in my sleeping quarters once I get him unpacked, so he's still resting peacefully.
And I think I'm running out of time, but I'd like to know from whoever wants to take this one, how has your time in space changed the meaning of Thanksgiving, if at all, for you?
Well, Gina, you know, this is a very busy time for all of us. I really don't think we've had time to prepare for the holidays at all. I do know we plan to get together here in another couple days, probably right where we're standing right now, for a traditional Thanksgiving meal. Of course, you know, it gives us a moment to pause and reflect on just how fortunate we are as a country and as a global community to participate in a partnership like this. You know, that we're looking to my left is the European module. To my right is the Japanese. Down below my feet, of course, is the logistics module we brought. And, of course, we're standing in one of the American segments. So, you know, truly it gives us an opportunity to come together as a global community. And we're very thankful for that, in addition to the opportunity to fly in space.
And Colonel Fink, I'll let you close it out, but a message to your wife and children on the ground. I know you're going to be missing the holidays with them.
Yeah, as you know, Gina, my family's a lot bigger than when I first launched, and I miss them even more. And but we all miss our families when we're gone away from the holidays, and we're just another military family with one of the parents deployed. So we're just like every other military family. We miss our loved ones when we're gone, but we're going to come home and we're going to have a really nice time when we're all together. So that for that I'm very thankful, and I'm thankful for all the other people out there that are protecting our country and who are away from home on the holidays, especially Thanksgiving. So God bless the troops and God bless my family. Thank you.
Endeavour Space Station, thank you all for your time.
Endeavour ISS, this is CBS News. How do you hear me?
And this is the International Space Station and Endeavour. We hear you loud and clear. How do you hear us?
5 by 5. Great to hear you guys. It's Peter King at the Kennedy Space Center. Bill Harwood's over at JSC, and Bill's got the first question.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's Bill Harwood at JSC, and I'd like to start with Commander Fink. Mike, you and Don Pettit just finished this repair job to the urine processor up there, trying to get it running normally. I know you don't have any test results quite yet, but how confident are you that this is going to work? I mean, it seemed like a fairly subtle analysis to me.
Well, sure, and that's what some of the best things that we do at Johnson Space Center is that we can take a fault tree and build it out and come down to some pretty good conclusions and deal with the most probable things. We're not picking at straws here. So these guys did a great job in a very short period of time to come up with an analysis for some tricky problem. The centrifuge would spin around for 2 hours and then all of a sudden would get a little bit unbalanced, and we think it's partly because it was maybe had a little bit too much play in the mounts, because that helps reduce vibration. So in this case, reducing by having a little by nailing it down a little bit, by bolting it down, will reduce the vibration. It may make things a little bit louder on the space station, but may be good enough to keep the centrifuge in balance while it processes the urine. So we're very hopeful for this, and if not, we have a few other tricks up our sleeves, and ultimately we could even take the distill unit back with the Endeavour. So right now it's a good time to test all these things out. So I'm very confident that we'll give it a good try, and we'll see if it works. The results should be available later today.
Hey, thanks, Mike. And let me ask a related question to Sandy. I don't think there are any spare distillation units that would have to be repaired if it came down, and obviously that's worst case, and hopefully it won't come to that. But can you give us a sense of why it's so important to get this system up and running as soon as possible, and what the impact might be if you can't?
Well, clearly we want to get the system running as soon as possible so we can start processing urine and verify that we do have good potable water coming out the other side. And I know there's some plans when the STS-126 crew arrives to pick me up in February to also have the toilet up and running and have the maximum loading, 6 to 10 people using the toilet, working through the urine processor to get the system into a test run, if you will, for the 6-person crew. So it's really important that we get this up and running, and again, we want to do that to make sure it's set and ready to go when we send up our 6-person crew next summer.
Guys, it's Peter King back at the Cape, and a question for Commander Fink. The EVA tomorrow, number 4, they'll be working on the Sarge again and finishing up all that work. What will a fully operational Sarge and all that additional power, assuming everything goes well, what will that enable the station to do that it's not doing now, and the implications for the future, please?
Well, Peter, nice to hear your voice again. In fact, we recognized it as soon as you called us up. Right now, we have enough power aboard the space station, but like Sandy mentioned, the STS-126 crew, they're going to bring up another solar array, the final solar array for the space station, so that we'll be almost completely assembled. And we're going to need that power for 6 people on board, and with all the science we're going to be doing, we're going to need every watt of that power. So having this solar, the port port Sarge, solar alpha rotary joint, and the starboard one working the way they're planned really helps us maximize our power. And I can't say enough about the spacewalkers we have on STS-126. They put their heart and mind and souls into each spacewalk so far, and they've done phenomenal work flight testing this new kind of equipment and grease guns and everything, and they've done such a great job, and I think our space station is much better for it.
That said, Mike, are you feeling any butterflies about tomorrow being kind of the moment of truth when they finish the EVA and they actually put this through a test?
Yes, in fact, Commander Ferguson and myself, we actually asked the ground so that when they do the test that we're up for it, so that we don't miss out on it, because we put our, like I said, we all put our hearts into this very much because we love the space station, and so yeah, we're standing by to see the results. Ultimately, the big picture plan though is to put in a new solar alpha rotary joint, a big spacer, and that's going to be something for a future crew, and that's going to take some really spectacular spacewalks. But until then, we need it working as best as we can.
Guys, this may well be the last question because I want all four of you to respond on this. First, just one of you and the plans for Thanksgiving Day, and just briefly from each of you, what you're most thankful for as you spend this Thanksgiving in space.
Well, I would have to say that I'm probably most thankful of this unique opportunity to fly and spend some time aboard the International Space Station. Of course, I'm extremely thankful for the ground crews that support us, and for our dedication that our nation has to furthering cooperation in space.
And I'm thankful for the same things that Chris is, but I also am thankful for the troops and the people around the world that are deployed and going to be overseas this Thanksgiving season, and also thankful for the opportunity to be up here and work with this great team.
In addition to being thankful for what was just said, I'm also very thankful to my family. This is my second long-duration space flight, and without my wife Renita and Chandra and Tara Lee and Surya supporting, along with my parents-in-law, my Aunt Peggy and all my Aunt Sue, everyone helping us out, and my own parents, we couldn't do this. So it's definitely a family effort, and I'm very thankful for my family.
And I have to echo what Mike said, in addition to agreeing with Fergie and Eric. I really, really appreciate all the support and love and friendship that I have from my family and friends, and I'm really delighted to be able to share this experience with them.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and thanks for joining us today. Safe journey all.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Bill.
Endeavor, this is NBC News. How do you hear?
Hello, NBC News. This is the space station along with Endeavor. We hear you loud and clear. How us?
We hear you loud and clear. I'll read an introduction and we'll get right to the questions. Commander Ferguson, I'll begin with you. The space station just hit its 10th anniversary, and then you and your team showed up with the ultimate home improvement project, extra bedrooms, a kitchen, gym equipment. How significant a milestone is this in the station's development?
Well, of course it's significant because it'll give the station the ability to support a 6-person crew come early next year. This is essentially a trial run for the station in that we're going to get the new space toilet up and running, the water processor up and running, and you know, the interior portion of this mission is almost as important, of course, as the exterior portion, which is our spacewalks, our EVAs to repair the solar alpha rotary joint. We have three of those spacewalks are complete, and they're extremely successful. It's a great tribute to our spacewalkers and our folks like Eric who support them from the inside, in addition to our hosts who have opened their arms and given us their help in conducting these spacewalks. Tomorrow we'll have the last one, and the last one will be to perform some precautionary maintenance on the port, the opposite solar alpha rotary joint. So you know, we've got a lot of projects going in here, inside and outside, all of which are significant to the longevity and success of the space station.
And no home improvement project goes without glitches. We all have heard, of course, about the lost tools. I know you don't want this to be a mission remembered solely for that, but has that slowed up progress in all the projects you're doing? And what's a pretty short timeline?
Oh, absolutely not. First of all, we have a great team on the ground, and they were able to get us a plan up to replace the tool that we lost. We went into EVA number 2 and on to EVA number 3 without any issues whatsoever, and it ended up being not really. There were no time impacts at all. You know, I've said once before that we're jacking up the International Space Station and taking the wheels off, and we're bound to get a little dirty, a little dusty, and meet a few surprises along the way. I think we've weathered this one just fine, and we've come back, you know, with a lot of confidence, and we got the job done that we intended to do on the first 3 EVAs, and we're ready to go out there for the 4th one.
And Commander Fink, as we've noted, the idea is to get 6 people on the space station on a regular basis. For that, you need a water recycling system. You've been installing that. It has not worked as intended. I know you're hopeful of a fix, but is that a potential showstopper in all this if you can't get that water recycling up and running?
Well, the good news is that we have half of our water recycler working. There's really 2 big parts to it. The first part takes the condensate from our air conditioning system, you know, all the water that generates and condenses, and we've processed that water, and we have a sample lying in the shuttle waiting for return, and that's good news. The second part is to take urine and take all the water out of the urine and then recycle that water, and that's the part where we ran into a glitch. We did some repairs this morning, and we think that's going to do the trick. We won't know till the end of the day, so hopefully that does the trick. Yes, but without being able to recycle urine, that does take down some of our capability. It's not necessarily a showstopper, but something that definitely we need to address.
Yeah, what are the realities of spaceflight that people may not know about, how you ultimately get water for a long period of time? Commander Ferguson, you mentioned the extraordinarily long spacewalks, another one planned. How grueling and how dangerous is that to have folks outside the station for those kinds of periods?
Well, first of all, we have amongst the best trained spacewalkers in the world out there. We receive an enormous amount of training on the ground from the first-class, top-notch people at the Johnson Space Center, and they support us the entire way. We're about as prepared as we can possibly be for these types of events. And surprisingly, even though you know, we are in a unique environment, and there are unforeseen things that do occur from time to time, these spacewalks, they're very, very tightly choreographed, and amazingly, they all go off very much on schedule in spite of the little glitches that do get thrown our way. You know, tomorrow we're going to go out there. We're going to, as I said, lubricate the port sarge, the other solar alpha rotary joint, and we're going to complete our work on the starboard sarge. We're going to install a camera. We're going to try to get some pictures of a radiator, which has had a cover that started to peel away, and the plan is already in works, and I'm confident that we're going to pull that one off just as well as we've done the first 3.
Well, unfortunately, we've got to end right there. It's been a real pleasure talking to all of you. We wish you best of luck for the rest of the mission, a safe return home, and most important, a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, ABC News, CBS News, and NBC News. Endeavour ISS, we are now resuming operational space-to-ground communications.
With a view of the Earth below as the Space Shuttle Endeavour's reinforced carbon-carbon leading edge of its left port ring is in the foreground here. Current altitude 217 statute miles, and the shuttle station complex is heading for a crossing at the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, and a track that'll take it over the midsection of the United States and the Great Lakes.
About how long, much longer should it be, or can we come back?
We're go right now, Mike. Thanks for calling us back.
Mission Specialist Greg Shamatov here is working inside the Kibo laboratory to install the antimicrobial applicator inside the laboratory that will run inside the internal thermal control system to introduce an antimicrobial agent into the thermal system's coolant.
Airlock Houston on space to ground 2 for helmet light bulb.
Okay, well, what I have here is a little cup I made from an overhead transparency film that I found, and I'm going to roll the video now. And I've also got a bag of coffee, and we can suck our coffee out from a bag, but to drink it from a cup is hard to do because you can't dip the cup up and get the liquid out, and it's also easy to slosh. So with the special shape of this cup, the surface tension forces will wick the coffee up along the edge there, and as you can see, as I'm putting some coffee there in the bag. And the way this works is the cross-section of this cup looks like an airplane wing, and the sharp angle, the narrow angle there will wick the coffee up, and this is what we use when we design fuel tanks for rockets to reignite in a weightless environment. The veins in the tanks will wick the fluid into the suction port, and if that angle is less than 2 times 90 minus the contact wetting angle, then the liquid will rise like that. So knowing this for a fuel tank, you can make it into a cup to drink your fluid from. So you could just sit there right on the edge of the cup, and as you sip, more fluid just keeps coming up and up and up, and you can enjoy a cup of coffee in a weightless environment without having to sip it from a bag. And you can just keep dipping and sipping and sipping, clear down to the last drop in the cup.
Oh, of course I did. I mean...
And this may very well be what future space colonists end up using when they want to have a celebration and do a toast. They can sip their coffee and their tea from cups like this, like we do down here on Earth, without having to suck them from a bag.
I didn't want to take any ceramic up here or glass, so I had.
Don, we really enjoyed that. This is a lot of fun.
And these advanced.
And you can see I'm continuing to suck the coffee out, or actually sip the coffee, because we're no longer sucking out of a bag now. We're drinking from a cup, and the coffee continues to climb up that acute angle, and until the whole bag is drained.
Good to the last drop. Now.
And that's the end of the video. I wanted to share that with you, a little discovery we made by using a little piece of plastic from one of the FDF books.
And that was Mission Specialist Don Pettit giving a demonstration of possibly a new way to drink fluids on board the International Space Station or in space. Pettit has a doctorate in chemical engineering, but while he was a staff scientist at the Los Alamos National...
We're ready for the evening daily planning conference, and we'd like to say hello from the International Space Station Expedition 18.
While Pettit was at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, he worked on projects that included reduced gravity fluid flow.
And things are going along swimmingly, as they say. So from Expedition 18, good evening. Good evening.
The International Space Station crew had their daily planning conference with the various flight control teams that are involved in the operation of the station. During the portion of that conference where the crew got to talk with the flight control team in Houston, the team gave a quick update on the status of the urine processor assembly troubleshooting they've been doing. Teams reported that They'll be evaluating the data they gathered during today's test of the urine sample sent through the system. That test managed to go about 3.5 hours, which is about an hour and a half longer than the previous test managed before shutting down. It did shut down after 3.5 hours, though, so the teams on the ground are looking at what their next steps should be. Commander Mike Fink at the station said that he and Don Pettit, who had been doing the physical work on the modifications that the teams on the ground had suggested, Fink said that he and Pettit were encouraged that today's test did last longer and had even some ideas for what the next steps might be, though they would wait to see what the ground came up with as well.
Houston airlock, we're ready to pick up 1206. Camp out mass pre-breathe, just verifying that you've completed step 1 or our MEDOX canisters are 0011 and 0012.
Steve, greetings from Orbit 3, and those are good numbers. We've completed our step 1, and you've got to go.
And we have a go to continue. Thanks a lot.
Mission Specialist Steve Bowen, one of tomorrow's spacewalkers, confirming that the 2 spacewalkers have started their pre-breathe procedure. They'll be putting on air mask in the next few minutes and then breathing pure oxygen for about an hour. And in 45 minutes, we'll be closing the hatches on the Quest airlock to begin their camp out in the airlock overnight, where they'll sleep at 10.2 pounds per square inch to force nitrogen out of their body and prevent the chances of them getting the bends or deep compression sickness when they go outside the station tomorrow.